Senator Markey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. In May of 2011, I released a report, Fukushima Fallout. This report pointed out the problems with American nuclear power plants in the wake of what we have learned about the Fukushima accident. It talked about how we rely upon outdated seismic information and how our plants might be unprotected. It said that power outages in our country could lead to Fukushima-style meltdowns, accidents right here in the United States of America. In July of 2011, 2 months after my report came out, the NRC's expert task force released 12 recommendations that all addressed weaknesses here in this country, including the ones that I raised in my report. As we sit here today, not one single new permanent seismic safety upgrade has been required to be put in place. Not a single new measure to prevent floods from causing a meltdown to occur has been put in place. Not a single new emergency response procedure has been put in place. That is unacceptable. The problems were identified in my report in 2011. The advisory committee, the NRC's own expert panel, identified these same problems. So it is just continuingly impossible for me to understand why the NRC does not, in fact, act on this area, why we haven't implemented the lessons that we should have already learned from the Fukushima accident. It is time for the United States to act as though we understand that nuclear power here has to learn from the nuclear power mistakes of other countries. I do not think that we have done that up until this moment. On the issue of cybersecurity, after the terrorist attacks of 9/11, the NRC issued cybersecurity orders for nuclear reactors, which later turned into even more robust regulations. But the NRC did not require the same stringent cybersecurity measures for other nuclear facilities, like centrifuge facilities that enrich uranium. Now we know that the United States and Israel used Stuxnet computer virus to damage Iran's centrifuges and slow down its nuclear weapons program. And I am sure that is part of the reason why the NRC staff recommended that the NRC quickly issue orders to upgrade the cybersecurity requirements at American enrichment facilities and then do a rulemaking just like the NRC did for its reactors. What is mystifying, though, is why the NRC voted 3-1 to reject the staff's recommendations. Commissioner Barron, you were the only one to support the NRC's staff recommendation. Can you tell us why?
Sure, Senator. The NRC staff spent years looking at this issue. They did site visits at our fuel cycle facilities. They talked with licensees for a period of 2 or 3 years, in largely trying to reach agreement on voluntary actions that the fuel cycle facilities would take to establish basic cybersecurity standards. And their conclusion after all that effort was that there were significant vulnerabilities that needed to be addressed in order to protect health and safety. And I agreed with the staff that NRC should issue orders and then follow it with a rulemaking so that we don't have years where we're waiting to have basic cybersecurity protections in place that are enforceable.
Okay, well, I agree with you, Commissioner Barron. NRC is still refusing to comply with my document request that could be related to the indictment of 5 members of the Chinese military on charges of hacking into U.S. company systems in 2010 and 2011 and stealing nuclear reactor trade secrets from Westinghouse. At the very same time that these thefts occurred, Westinghouse was hosting dozens of unescorted Chinese personnel at U.S. nuclear reactors for months. But the NRC has refused to provide me with any documents I have requested, even though Congress is about to be asked to approve a new nuclear cooperation agreement with China. Anonymous sources have sent me some materials. For example, in November of 2010, NRC Security Office recommended that additional information about each Chinese national be provided in advance of the visits so that they could be checked against other security databases. But the NRC ultimately rejected this recommendation, and they did end up gaining unescorted access to nuclear reactors in this country, according to documents that were sent to me. The law I wrote requires the NRC to provide non-public documents to Congress. It is vitally important that Congress be fully informed about the potential risks of Chinese cyber espionage before it approves a new nuclear cooperation agreement with China. Do each of you agree to follow the law and fully respond to all of my outstanding document requests? Yes or no? Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Markey, we have, the prior commission, when I understand these requests were made, and indicated we would meet with your staff and discuss the matter with respect to the documents and the issues with respect to it. And that offer still stands.
Yes or no? Will you provide?
I've answered the
Will you
question.
provide the documents?
We will offer to meet with your staff to discuss the matter, and that's my answer.
Yeah, no one has offered that. No one has provided that.
Senator Markey, let me interrupt for just a moment.
That I'm offering right now, that our staff.
Pardon me,
will meet
Mr.
with-
Chairman,
I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm
saying
sorry, sir.
something here. We're going to have a second, third, 3-minute round. You want to take yours right now? You're already 2 minutes into it. I'd be glad to give you that time.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. Yes, I'll just take that time right now. The other commissioners, do you believe that you should follow the law and fully respond to all of my outstanding document requests? Commissioner Barron.
Well, obviously, we should follow the law. My view is when NRC gets a document request from a member of one of our congressional oversight committees, we should review the documents that will be responsive, and we should work with you or whoever the requester is to provide as much information as we can.
Yes. The other two commissioners, do you agree?
Senator Markey, I agree with Chairman Burns' response.
I agree with Chairman Burns as well.
Okay, well, let me just tell you this. We are about to be asked as a Congress to approve a new nuclear cooperation agreement with China. This committee has a right to have access to this information. We are the committee of jurisdiction overseeing the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. There is a huge issue with regard to China and the security of our nuclear secrets that is in question. There are outstanding questions going to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that have not been responded to. And I believe it is irresponsible for that information not to be provided to this committee so that we can evaluate before we are asked to vote on a new Chinese nuclear agreement. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman.